In a world where insanity reigns supreme and safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, it's comforting to know an ancient, fat, long-haired, bearded reprobate has your mind in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, and despite every attempt by the SHR Media Network to revoke his shameless contract, we return to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble.
What a great show we got for you tonight. Welcome one and all. Last show before Christmas. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, live and direct from the sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent SHR Media Studios, 2 miles east of the Bill Mill. That's the locus of evil on the entire left coast. That would be the Capitol building at 10th and L downtown, 10th and L streets, where late at night you can hear the death of common sense and also smell the odoriferous, terrible stench of sulfur and brimstone from the evil that resides within the Capitol building in Sacramento, California. You can also smell the odoriferous stench of poop all around California as well. Not a place you really want to be. It's more like a place you want to be from. I got to tell you this, belly up to the bar. We've kept your seat. It's great to see you back tonight. It is Thursday, December 19th, the year of our Lord 2019. Angel again is going to be your bartendress tonight. She pours with the best of them. The lava lamp is in fact lighted to my right, your left. We don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the Saloon. Nothing is sacred. The speech is free, but the booze is not. All we ask is that you flush the toilet, jiggle the handle, don't forget to tip your waitress. As I indicated, last show before Christmas, and I think it's going to be a good one, we have a great guest, essentially, to have for you tonight before Christmas, which is, oh my gosh, are you guys ready? Christmas is, 6 days away now. Earl Jackson, are you there, sir?
I am here, sir. How are you today?
I got to ask you, are you prepared for Christmas? Got all your stuff done? Okay, that's a no.
Well, here's the thing.
Okay.
We don't do a whole lot. We haven't had a tree in a number of years.
Okay.
We live in the sticks. We don't have a lot of decorations up. And we already decided what we were going to get each other for Christmas. So technically, yeah, everything's done.
Oh, okay. All right. I like people that plan ahead. You know, it's Christmas sometimes is like trying to get your dad when my dad was still alive. The conundrum every year was, God, what do I get Dad? He's got everything. So what am I going to get him that he really wants? And sometimes it would be something as small as a paperback book that he likes. Give him that. He's happy. But I can see what you're saying because you guys have been married, you know each other, you're with each other 24/7 or kind of close to that. And you
close to it.
You know what each other likes. You know what each other wants. So I guess there really isn't going to be much of the element of surprise in there. Maybe that's what you're saying.
Well, years ago, my wife said to me, "Honey, this is what you're getting me. Thank you."
Okay.
And it's been smooth sailing ever since.
That's perfect. You know, you got a system and it works for you. Who's going to dispute that?
Yep.
Not me. Good Lord.
She
We
gets
haven't.
what she wants, and I gave her the perfect gift. It works out for the both of us.
Good. Excellent. Because, folks, do you have people that, and it might be somebody directly in the family, or it might be a husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, somebody like that, that will get you something chachi just to get you something? Because I've said for years, rather than something kind of dumb, just don't get me anything. I'd rather that, quite frankly. And still people will go out and get you, you know, and then they give you, I don't know, a piece of burnt toast, and you look at the piece of burnt toast, and it's from them, and it's wrapped really nicely, but you open it up, and it's a piece of burnt toast, and you're supposed to go, "Oh, God, that was great." No, it's a piece of burnt toast, okay, and you really didn't want it, but the first thing you think of is, hey, regifting. But it's too late if it's Christmas.
Exactly. Yeah.
Welcome to Mike in chat. Welcome to the Alaskan in chat. Welcome to Kaiser in chat. Thank you, folks, for being here. Earl, you are Earl Big E Jackson. You have your own show. So first, before we get on with the politics of life, tell folks a little bit about yourself, because I've got a bunch of new listeners. And also tell folks about your social media, and tell folks about the Liberty Cast, because you are your own radio host. So tell folks about all of that, please, Earl.
Absolutely. Well, I grew up with Sackhead Sean. Well, not grew up. We met when we were quite young, and we worked together and in law enforcement. So I have that background. And shortly after that, I decided to get into another line of work. But I was always interested in politics. My parents were news junkies, and so I was always interested. I grew up at the time of Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan, and I saw that transition and that dynamic. And that was when my conservative leanings were pretty much solidified. And I grew up typical teenager, early 20s, not really paying attention, caring too much what was going on. And then something happened, and it just dawned on me that we're headed in a wrong direction. And so I started paying more attention, started following up on the things that I was somewhat taught in school, but never really, they didn't really drill it into us. So a lot of the things that I know about our history and a lot of the things that I read along the lines of the Federalist Papers and all the books about Thomas Jefferson and the founders, I did on my own. And so as I got older and I saw things were going on, I decided that I needed to let my voice be heard. And that was when the Liberty Cast came to be. And one of the things that I'm most passionate about is the Second Amendment and the Constitution in general, and the fact that our leaders are not really adhering to it, as we've seen over the past couple of years. But the Second Amendment is something that's very, very special to me. And I live in a place where the quickest response for law enforcement might be 20 minutes. And when situations can be over in a matter of seconds, we need to be our own first responders. And the fact that they're doing everything that they can to take away that option from us is something that I just can't abide. So I'm doing what I can with my podcast to get that message out there. And I talk about other things too. I talk about politics, the politics of the day. And some of my most popular podcasts actually are the ones where I end up talking a little bit about pop culture, whether that's movies or TV shows or things of that nature. So it's a total package of the things that are going on today.
You are at, folks, if you want to follow him, I would highly recommend it. Earl Jackson is he's on Twitter, at the Liberty Cast, lowercase. So you can follow him there. He's also at hashtag the Liberty Cast. He's also on, has his own website. Let me go to that right now. There it is. thelibertycast.net.
Thelibertycast.net.
And there you can
pretty
find
much all the social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Parlay. I'm actually on Parlay as well. And it's at the Liberty Cast on all four of those.
And I'm on his site right now. And you've got stories in here. It's divided into home, our story, podcasts, and mission. So you've got a story in here. You write your own stuff then, correct?
Yes, I do. I don't write as much as I'd like, so some of the stories are a little older. But yeah, I write all my own stuff.
The mission, you say, is at the Liberty Cast is to inform, shine a light on the left's nefarious goals, and to help prevent them from achieving their end game. One of the goals is to make sure that we focus quite a bit here on the Liberty Cast is gun control. Just like you said, we're strong Second Amendment advocates, and me too. Now, last time you were on, which is actually the first time you were on, Sean, owner of SHR, didn't tell me that he knew you, bastard. And he just came in to help with stuff, and he just went out to go do his laundry, so he's still around. But he didn't tell me that he knew you. You started as being an East Coast guy, so you guys were working together for a police department. He left. He came all the way to the West Coast. You left the East Coast, and you ended up going to Texas, which is where you've been now for a number of years. So I got to ask you, Earl, I'm talking to Earl Jackson, folks, why Texas? Why did you go from the East Coast and boom, right into Texas?
It was a decision process that we made. I got married, and my wife is from Maine, and so I was pretty much resigned to staying in New England. But she, out of the blue, without any prompting from me, said, let's move somewhere else. So we looked at places like Atlanta, and we looked at Tennessee and Arizona, but Texas was always near and dear to my heart because I had my boot camp and tech school in the Air Force here in Texas, and I loved it the entire time I was here. And so between that and the economy at the time when we moved, Texas and the Austin area was the perfect landing spot for us.
So you've been in Texas about how many years now?
We moved here in January of 2006.
Okay.
So it'll be 14 years in January.
Okay. Overall, happy with Texas? I'm getting to a point here in a bit.
I absolutely love Texas.
Okay. Where you are you kind of close to the coast where it's kind of humid, or are you more in the middle of Texas?
I'm in central Texas.
Okay.
In the greater Austin area.
Okay. Somebody in chat, Mike in chat says, hey, and thanks for reminding me of this, Mike, because not only did Sackhead Sean neglect purposefully to tell me about you, so when we first spoke, you said, oh yeah, blah, 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 and Sackhead Sean is, what? Duh. I didn't also know that you were married, and we've been carrying a commercial called Carry Girl, and I didn't know that because we put the commercial on and everything. I didn't know that the proprietor of Carry Girl also, thanks Sean, is your wife. He didn't tell me that either.
That's right. Yeah, he seemed to be reluctant to give up any information.
Yeah.
I don't know what's up with that.
That seems kind of weird. I brought up Texas because towards the end of the hour, I want to talk about you with Texas and some of the changes that are going in that are going on and involving Texas. Funny thing is, a couple of years ago, a representative from Texas, Al Green, gave a foreshadowing of things to come.
Congressman, are you concerned that impeachment talk may actually help the president's reelection?
I'm concerned that if we don't impeach this president, he will get reelected.
Thanks, Al. So that was the story from the very beginning. Then we had an impeachment.
Yes, it was.
We'll get into impeachment. And the impeachment allegedly was quid pro quo, bribery on behalf of the president because he allegedly threatened the president of Ukraine, holding back funds because of Hunter Biden, and it would affect Joe Biden. But who really demanded quid pro
That was the assignment
quo
I got.
here?
I got all the good ones. So I got Ukraine. And I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to the press conference. I said, no, I'm not going to, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Imagine that. Well, I have to ask you, Earl Jackson, we got the video, we got the goods on Joe Biden. Where's the video and the audio of President Trump threatening to withhold aid specifically to the president on Ukraine? I'm kind of curious if that exists.
I have been trying to figure that out since this whole thing started. Once he released the transcripts, we all could read for ourselves what actually happened. And the people who compiled the transcript said that it is an exact representation of what happened in that conversation.
Right.
So if that's true, where's the quid pro quo? There is none. And the fact that they actually went through with this, well, we all knew they were going to anyway. I mean, they said 20 minutes into his presidency that it was time to impeach him. So this was a investigation looking for a crime.
There was a guy in Russia under Stalin who was the head of the state police, and his name was Beria. And he said, and this is equally applicable here, I believe, show me the man, and I'll show you the crime.
Yeah.
The Democrats have said, we have our man, now we'll just identify the crime. As opposed to how it really should be is, well, there's the crime, now we're going to go look for suspects. And that, to me, tells you a great deal of what you want to know about the current state of politics in America these days. Well, we all know that Trump...
It tells us everything.
It tells us exactly everything. Trump was impeached yesterday by the House. Now, the question as to whether or not it's official, I'm of the mind that it's not, and there are a couple of people who support me on that, in terms of, and my point for saying that is, it has not yet been transmitted to the Senate. And there is
no... They have not delivered the articles to the Senate yet.
That's correct. And so we had a vote in the House, and even in the House, it went kind of wonky. Trump was impeached on 2 articles. The first vote, which was 230 to 197, that was one about abuse of power. And that was almost entirely on a party line. All the Republicans voted against it. It was followed by that second vote, which was 229 to 198. and that was accusing the president of obstructing Congress. And the one vote difference was this guy, this Democrat, Jared Golden of Maine, who voted yes on abuse of power, but no on obstruction. And like I said, no Republicans voted against Trump. But the funny thing is, two Democrats, a guy named Jeff Van Drew, he's from New Jersey, and apparently he's going to be switching parties in the not too terribly distant future. And a guy named Colin Peterson of Minnesota, they voted with Republicans against both articles. And then Tulsi Gabbard, who is running for president right now, and I think she's setting up all her video and audio bites for 2024, because I think she's going to run again in 2024. She voted present on both articles. My question, and I'm really curious about your input, one of the articles was obstructing Congress. To me, that cannot occur because of the triumvirate of the judicial, executive, and legislative branch. They are all co-equal. So
exactly,
the president, another form of the three branches of government, was accused of obstructing Congress. Could the president, therefore, because if it's good for the goose, it should be good for the gander, can't the president then accuse Congress of obstructing him? It can't be one way. So I've really been curious about that.
Of course. And that's a good point, because as the co-equal branches, they each have their own purviews. The president's purview is foreign policy. One of his purviews is foreign policy. It seems to me that Congress has been injecting themselves into his foreign policy agenda from the beginning. So, yeah, I completely agree with you that it is, he wouldn't do it, but it would be entirely legitimate for him to accuse them of obstructing his job.
And continuing on with that theory, because goose and gander, if it's good for Congress, it should be good for every of the three branches of government. Couldn't Congress then theoretically say, I don't know, SCOTUS, you're obstructing Congress? We think the president is obstructing Congress. We can't obstruct ourselves, of course, because we're Congress, but it just, none of that makes sense to me. So that, well, sorry, go ahead, sir.
Well, it's the logical fallacy of their argument that he was obstructing Congress, because if you take it to its logical conclusion, that's it. They could very well accuse the Supreme Court of obstructing them as well.
Well, you should theoretically be, if they're
co-equal branches of government.
Yes, exactly. If you can accuse one branch of obstruction, then theoretically, what the hell? You should be allowed to accuse the other branch of obstruction. It doesn't make any sense. Overall, Earl Jackson of the Liberty Cast, owner and host of the Liberty Cast, just general thoughts about impeachment.
This has been, when I hear people talk about how it's a dark day and it's the worst in recent memory and stuff like that, my first thought is that's a bit hyperbolic. But if you actually think about what they did, I think that's entirely accurate, because they have basically made the president look, I'm not going to say made him look foolish, but they've made themselves look foolish. They've made our government look foolish on the world stage. And impeachment is never good for the country, no matter who it is. And it has to be predicated on something that is worth it. And this was a hoax from the very beginning. And I think the president can, if he's allowed to, well, I won't even say allowed to, because he's done a lot in the face of this nonsense that's gone on for the past 3 years. So I think he can pull us out of it, but it's been one of the worst things that I've witnessed in my following politics, and I've seen a lot.
Rashida Tlaib, I don't know, 35 microseconds after stepping into Congress, said, absent knowing anything about Ukraine, absent knowing anything more about Congress, impeach the motherfucker. And the mouth of the West said essentially the same thing, Maxine Waters, since the microsecond, since January 20th of 2017. This is basically 13 seconds of Representative Doug Collins summarizing everything that's occurred up to this point.
Madam Speaker, I was just amazed by what the chairman just said. If it was obviously that he violated the bribery statute clearly, then why didn't we add it as an article of impeachment? The reason why? It didn't. With that, I yield a minute and a half to the gentleman from Mississippi, Mr. Guest.
So the obvious just became stated. If Trump engaged in bribery and quid pro quo, where was it? Did it exist? If they don't have the confidence of their convictions, then what do they have?
They have nothing. And here's the other thing. I read the articles of impeachment, didn't see a crime listed anywhere. But what they did say was that he is somehow a threat to national security.
Right.
If he's such a threat to national security, then why haven't they marched those orders, those articles of impeachment down to the Senate and got the process started for a trial in the Senate? And if he's such a danger,
and demanded an immediate trial.
It's ridiculous. It just proves that it has been nothing but a sham from the beginning.
The Senate can do one of three things. The Senate can acquit, the Senate can hold a trial, or the Senate can dismiss. That is to say, like any other judge-like body, they can declare summary judgment, as in, we don't recognize this, and you know what, we're not going to even give it any credence. I got about 2 minutes before the bottom of the hour break. We're talking to Earl Jackson, host of his own podcast, The Liberty Cast, where you've got to go and find it. Oh, stop right there. Damn me. Let's emphasize again. Earl Jackson, The Liberty Cast. Where can people hear that, and on what days?
The show usually gets posted on Sundays, Sunday evenings, sometimes Monday morning, depending on sometimes we have some technical issues. You know how that goes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, do I.
Sunday evening, Monday morning. And you can find us at thelibertycast.net is the website. All the podcasts are on the podcast page. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Parlay at the Liberty Cast. And any podcast platform, iTunes, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, where we're on all of those popular platforms. So however you like to get your podcast, you can find us there.
We're going to take a break. I'm talking to Earl Jackson. His podcast is The Liberty Cast. When we come back, I want to ask Earl a couple of questions. More questions, of course. You have to listen to the Liberty Cast. You have to go to thelibertycast.net to see all the stuff that's there. But I want to ask Earl when he gets back, okay, the House has allegedly impeached Trump. It may or may not get trotted over to the Senate. But I want to ask, okay, does it go over to the Senate? If it goes over to the Senate, what happens? And then what are Earl's thoughts about 2020? Has this helped or has this hindered President Donald John Trump, OMB, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head? One each. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
Show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com, go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday, live and direct on the SHR Media Network, shrmedia.com. Be there.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we're back. I am BZ. You are listening to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, spell it with a K. 2 miles east of the veritable belly of the beast, the locus of evil on the entire left coast, coast. The Capitol Building in Sacramento, California at 10th and L Street. Tonight we've got Earl Jackson on. Before the break, I wanted to ask Earl, when we come back, okay, what do you think about impeachment? How do you think the proceedings are going to go now? Will Pelosi trot the whole case over to the Senate if she doesn't get it just perfectly wrapped. McConnell has the ability essentially to say, okay, where are they? Daily impeachment over here. And will this have an impact on the 2020 November 3rd election for the presidency? If so, is it deleterious? Is it positive? Is it negative? Earl Jackson, what are sort of your thoughts on that whole kerfuffle flurry of stuff?
Well, I think we all knew, anyone paying attention knew they were going to find something to impeach him on. They were going to find something. We knew it was going to happen. It took 2.5 years, but they finally did it. The fact that they haven't delivered the articles to the Senate yet it tells us something about what they think they have, which they know they don't have anything.
Yeah.
Everybody who's paid attention to this knows they don't have anything. Although I will say I've had interactions on social media with people who I thought were smart people.
Uh-oh.
And it's like, you really believe that this has some substance, and they do. And I can't believe it. It's mind-boggling. But if Nancy Pelosi doesn't get the articles to the Senate, I would say by December 31st, I think McConnell should just dismiss. Say this is not valid. We're not going to waste our time waiting for this nonsense, and move on. That would probably some people would probably find that distasteful. Some people will probably be upset. But if it was so urgent that they had to do this, it took 86 days for this inquiry.
Yep.
Where Bill Clinton's took, I think, 1,500. I mean, this was a rush job from the beginning. So if it was so important that they had to rush it to this extent, and now they're just going to say, we'll wait.
Yeah,
I say dismiss.
Yeah, it's like critical. It's critical that we get. Well, I guess it's not that critical. Okay, I'll hang on to it for a while. I'll hang on to it. I love you mentioned social media. I love the response of social media. This is something I found and I retweeted because it's so damn stupid. This is from, well, consider the source, Maine Antifa. Okay, there's a picture of some pink-haired dude with a little thin beard, and he's holding up his phone. Literally, he's got pink hair and resist on his T-shirt. What a stud. And it says, what? Me waking up knowing Trump is no longer president as of today. We won. The fascists lose. Resist. These dumb shits actually think Trump's no longer president. Okay, I wonder who's president, who's vice president, and what happened to all the cabinet positions, you dumb piece of shit. Okay, other than that, moving along. But I just had to pass that along because, as you indicate, yeah, these people really, honest to God, are that stupid. The interesting point is that Mitch McConnell...
I can't believe how many people... Go ahead.
The other thing is... Mitch McConnell pulled one card out of the pack. I don't know if he's going to play it, but he talked about it. He said that the impeachment years under Clinton, those were good times. Those were so good that maybe he wants to bring him back. So rather than keep having his counterpart, Chucky Schumer, negotiate by way of MSNBC, essentially, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said he might just simply reinstate the rules package that governed Bill Clinton's impeachment 20 years ago. And as you mentioned, oh, yeah, by the way, that includes a dismissal option. Well, okay, it's out there. I guess it's out in the ozone. What were you going to say, Earl?
Well, going back to the social media aspect for just a quick second, I can't believe how many people actually thought that this was going to result in President Trump being removed from office after the House impeached him. I thought it was common knowledge. I thought everybody knew that it had to go to the Senate, but I couldn't believe how many people I saw that actually thought he was going to be walked out of the White House.
Yeah, I actually,
it's amazing.
It is. It's amazing how stultifyingly stupid the bulk of millennials and Gen Zers are, and I'd have to throw it up to the bulk of the electorate. You know, they remind me of the Stegosaurus. The Stegosaurus had a brain the size of a walnut, and then it had a ganglion of nerves in its hips so that it could ensure that its rear legs would actually function. So to me, altogether way too many members of the electorate remind me quite glibly of the Stegosaurus. Having said that, though, and up to this point, what effect, Earl Jackson, do you think this is going to have on the election November 3rd in 2020 with regard to the presidency and, of course, OMB, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head?
I think that they have helped Trump tremendously. I don't think that I think they believe that they were, just by virtue of them repeating everything over and over again, that they were going to win some Republicans and erode the support that President Trump had. And they had the exact opposite effect. And I mean, across the board, I mean, black support for President Trump is up into I believe around 30%. I mean, it's,
yeah.
And if that metric stays, they have no shot.
It's about.
So I think that they did themselves a tremendous disservice by going about it this way, and it's only going to bode well for Republicans in 2020.
I talked to Lonnie Poindexter Tuesday night, and he said, yeah, the last thing that he'd seen about that is that Trump had an approval rating of about 35%. And like you say, if he can keep that, dude, okay, you're in.
Yeah, I mean, and he has to keep that, though. We can't just say, oh, he's got that, so it's just going to be smooth sailing until then.
No.
We have to make sure we keep the pressure on and don't just sit back on our laurels and say, yeah, y'all screwed up, so now we'll just cruise to November 3rd and take it for another 4 years. It's not going to work that way because they're not going to stop.
You can't do with people what the Democrats have done for altogether too long, is put everybody on ignore mode except during a time of potential election. Then you pay mouth attention to people, and then as soon as you're installed, then everybody else can go to hell. Trump can't afford to do that. Trump better not do that.
No.
But he's the individual that has kept the greatest bulk of campaign promises that I've ever seen on presidential candidate for quite some time. The other thing I want to ask you,
in the face of all this opposition that he's had, it's amazing, really.
Don't you think, Earl Jackson, that has a great deal to do with the pushback that's occurring these days? Everybody assumed that Hillary Clinton was a bona fide gimme. She's going to get in there and then everything will work swimmingly. We'll hold everything. We'll get back the Senate. We'll keep the House. We'll have a wonderful individual in the Oval Office. And yet, despite all the forces that were arrayed against Trump, all of the American media maggots, essentially all of Europe, all the rest of the world, all the cheating, all the corruption, as I've said, corruption 24/7, all the corruption you can stand right there. And despite all that, now we're discovering that everything that the Democrats are claiming that the Republicans and Trump have been doing, it's being revealed that they're the ones that are guilty of precisely those same things. Do you think they're going to be sorry that they went for this impeachment?
I honestly don't know if they're self-aware enough to be sorry.
Could they not impeach?
Say that again?
Could they not impeach? Was that ever an option for them?
No, I don't think it was, because even before his inauguration, they were saying they were going to impeach him. So I think that the rabid, radical leftist base that they have, I think that they had no choice but to capitulate to them and do whatever they could to get this impeachment done. And they're going to pay the price for that.
I think there's going to be a big price to be paid for that. The biggest price that I think
so, and I.
Go ahead, Earl.
Go ahead.
The biggest price that I think is going to be paid.
Sorry, go ahead.
The biggest price that I think is going to be paid is the triumvirate that Trump is going to hold the White House. They're going to keep the Senate, and they're going to retake the House. And as opposed to President Bush, who was quailing in fear, along with the rest of the Republicans, oh my God, what do we do with all this power? I don't think Trump's going to have any problem whatsoever wielding the power that the House and the Senate, holding the House and the Senate, are going to give him. Any doubt about that, Earl?
I have no doubt whatsoever that he will keep his foot on the gas on the next 4 years. And I think that the combination of the leftist impeachment, the president continuing the success that he's enjoyed thus far, if that happens and there are no major issues with a recession, or somehow something happens that he does have somewhat of a fall from grace, I think that the Democrats, as you put it, could be paying a price for the next 4 years after Trump's presidency, and even beyond that. Because if we continue this success, and the spending notwithstanding, that's a whole other issue.
Oh God,
but if
yes.
we can continue that success, people will be like, why would we want to have something? Why would we want socialism when we're all doing so much better than we were 4, 8, 12 years ago?
The Democrats opened the door, and I said some time ago, don't be surprised if everybody and his brother decides that they're going to rush through the open door. What I mean is this. I said, okay, then what you've essentially done, Democrats, is ensure that you will have hot and cold running impeachments from now in perpetuity. Then I saw a story from DavidHarrisJr.com, a very interesting story by a dude named Stephen Abel, and he wrote, Louis Gohmert, we're ready to impeach Joe Biden if he wins in 2020. So Louis Gohmert is now on record by saying that if Joe Biden wins in 2020, the Republicans are going to be ready to impeach him on day one. Goose gander. So if it works for the Democrats, shouldn't it theoretically work for the Republicans as well? Seems to me. Maybe it should.
It should. And I personally wouldn't have advised him to do that just yet. But, I mean, at some point the gloves have to come off, because the Republicans haven't fought the same way that the Democrats have over the years. And maybe it was a good thing that Louis Gohmert did that.
Well, the idea, if nothing else, has to be placed out into the ozone. We got about 10 minutes left before the top of the hour.
Absolutely.
I want to ask you about Texas now and change gears. Texas is in the process, and that's one of the other reasons that I wanted to speak to you tonight. We're talking to Earl Jackson from the Liberty Cast, folks. Earl is a resident of Texas. Earl is a witness to what's going on in Texas. He's been there for at least a decade. So I saw this story and I thought, okay, does this apply to Texas in two aspects? Well, the story goes, New York Times, there's been a tidal wave of mass immigration, and essentially that ended up handing Virginia over to the Democrats. And we all know what's going on in Virginia with the Second Amendment, abortion, Governor Northam, blackface Northam, what a wonderful guy. But it helped to turn Virginia blue, and now they're going to have to suffer the consequences. So my question, Earl Jackson, to you tonight is, Texas has been historically red. People are saying, oh, we're going to turn Texas purple. Not only that, dudes, we're going to turn Texas blue. Well, Governor Rick Perry at the time came to California a number of years ago and tried to scoop businesses from California, always spell it with a K, into Texas. He was successful at that because Texas has a much more friendly business climate than does California, always spell it with a K. So a lot of businesses fled California because of taxes and went into Texas. The problem with that, of course, is that when you hoover all those people out of California, you also bring their mindsets with them. So, okay, Texas benefited from businesses and from lower taxes, but what has been the effect, Earl Jackson, of essentially an assload of leftists coming in and infesting major cities more than they were before? Dallas, Houston, Austin, etc. What's been the net effect of that, and how has that affected Texas, Earl Jackson?
It hasn't. I don't think it's affected Texas as much as the left would like it to. Dallas has skewed left in recent times. Austin has always been the lone blue dot in a sea of red that is Texas. And Houston now, with their leftist police chief who left Austin, they're starting to skew a little left. But and I know that those are population centers, but I think that overall it will probably swing 2 or 3 percentage points in a national election. I don't think it's going to have a huge impact right away. And I would like to think, and this is probably wishful thinking, but I would like to think that people coming from the hellhole that is California, always spell it with a K, that they'll see what is happening here in Texas and the life that they can have here in Texas, and choose not to vote in the same policies that they had when they were over there on the left coast. It hasn't happened yet. I'm not saying it won't, but I think it's a bit overblown and a bit premature at this point to think that Texas is going to turn blue.
Because a lot of people on the left are saying, we got it. We got them by the glottis, and we're not going to let up. So I'm wondering if that's having any kind of an impact.
But those same people thought Hillary Clinton was going to win in 2016. So,
yeah, there is that. I got to say one thing, Earl Jackson. You guys have got one of the coolest governors ever in Governor Abbott.
Don't we, though? Yes, we do.
Do you think, or do you know if there are any challengers to Abbott? And when's he up? I offhand, I have no idea when he's up and what might his chances be at this point of keeping the governorship. Because, boy, you guys need to keep him. Oh, desperately.
I thought he was. I thought he was up in 2020, but I don't think that's the case. I think it might be 2022. I'm not entirely sure at this point. It hasn't been in the news at all yet, so I'm not sure exactly when that's going to take place. I don't see any challenges on the horizon at this point.
Outstanding.
Because he's done such a phenomenal job, and even Rick Perry, when he was here, he was doing a great job too. And I think Governor Abbott has taken it and run with it. And I don't see a challenge anytime soon, unless something terrible happens with the economy, which is not going to happen.
I don't believe so.
I think he's in the mansion for another term at least, as long as he wants.
In terms of, let's see, for your senators right now are John Cornyn and Ted Cruz, if I'm not mistaken. Are you guys Do you anticipate, who's that massive, stupid guy that was running for president? I can't even think of his name now. Oh, Beto O'Rourke. Is Beto O'Rourke going to be back?
Robert Francis.
Yeah, Robert Francis. Yeah, let's call him Beto because he's about as Mexican as my car. And it's from Germany. So is Beto going to come back, do you think, for any kind of a challenge? Because he ran against Cruz last time, I think, didn't he?
He ran against Cruz, and he actually came very close to beating Cruz last time. I think he has made such a fool of himself that I don't think he has any political capital left to spend. I think he's done.
If you or Earl or anybody else want to do a good Beto O'Rourke imitation, think Keanu Reeves and then talk like him, like, dude, I'm like Beto O'Rourke. And I'm going to give you in Texas as much stuff as I possibly can. One more story before the end of the hour. This is out of Virginia. I don't ever seeing this happen. But this is how readily leftists will kick you to the curb. There was a chick, a social worker in Virginia. And folks found out, her administration found out that she had a concealed weapons permit. So she goes to Facebook and Twitter, and she shares that she was fired from her job in Virginia at the Roanoke City Social Services. She was escorted from the building by 3 police officers, not because she came to work with a gun, but because her employer found out that she had a CCW. That's how silly, stupid, and fattening it's getting in Virginia. So with regard to the Second Amendment, we got about 3 minutes left. Earl Jackson, can you kind of give us some insight as to how the Second Amendment is held and how it functions in Texas?
The Second Amendment is one of the guiding principles here in Texas, except for places like Austin. Everyone here has a great respect, great reverence for the Second Amendment. I don't see anyone, even in Austin, I wouldn't see anyone getting fired from their job for having a license to carry. Virginia is just off the rails. I'm really happy to see what they're doing with their Second Amendment resolutions, and I think it's over 100 counties now. And but obviously, I don't think Roanoke is one of them.
No.
But here in Texas, something like that would never happen. Chances are, in any municipal building you go to, half the people have guns in there, locked in their cars at this point. I mean, that's silly to me. But on the Virginia thing, like I said, they have over 100 counties now, I think, that have signed Second Amendment resolutions. Some of them have actually passed ordinances, and there's one county, and I can't recall off the top of my head right now which one it is, but they have set aside funds for a militia. That's how serious it is in Virginia right now.
People on social media have told me, oh, shoot, I only got 1 minute left. People on social media have told me that Texas is going to be the locus, the center point of some kind of pushback from the Second Amendment. I don't think it's going to be Texas. Virginia is pushing the envelope so much, I think it's going to be Virginia. Any thoughts on that, Earl Jackson?
I agree with you 100%. I think it is going to be Virginia. And my only concern is, my only problem is that if the people that are pushing this now had voted in the last election, they probably would not be in this situation to begin with.
Exactly.
And so that's the one thing that we have to make sure that people do is get out and vote.
Exactly. Folks, we've been talking to Earl Jackson. Thank you ever so kindly, sir, for being here tonight. Tell folks where they can listen to your podcast, The Liberty Cast.
Well, you can find us the website, thelibertycast.net. Go to the podcast page, and you'll find all the podcasts there going back pretty much since we started. We're on all the major podcast platforms, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and you can follow us on social media. at the Liberty Cast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Parlay.
Earl Jackson, thanks for staying up late tonight. You're from Texas, but still it's 9 o'clock here, which means it's 11 o'clock there, a 2-hour difference. So thanks for staying up so late. Merry Christmas to you, Earl Jackson.
Well, thanks for having me.
You and your family, God bless, and you guys take care. And in 2020...
Merry Christmas to you and yours as well.
Thank you, sir. In 2020, I'm going to have you back some more, so I apologize for not having you back more frequently. Thank you kindly tonight,
Well, I'm
Earl
looking
Jackson.
forward to it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. Folks, that was Earl Jackson. We're going to have him back. When we go into the second hour, now I'm going to talk about Afghanistan and some thoughts on Afghanistan. The phone number is going to be open, 575. Wait, why did I get 575? I think I got 575 because it's the Roswell, New Mexico phone number. Area code 575 is in Roswell. Huh. It's 575-208-4481. I'll put the number up in chat. You know what's going to happen? We're going to be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Shannon Wright of The Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Mike's not here, so I gotta talk fast. You gotta join us. Fall season. Getting ready to start up with a whole bunch of new stuff. News and food and politics and sports and entertainment and a whole bunch of stuff. But wait, Mike's coming. I gotta go. Remember, Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian Sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty voided Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we are back. The first hour is gone. Thanks again to Earl Jackson for being here. You can listen to him on the Liberty Cast. Go to his website, thelibertycast.net, and you can listen to his podcasts. Great website, great guy. Going to have him back more in the future in 2020. There are changes coming up for 2020. Don't want to tell you what they are, but I just want to let you know there are going to be some changes here on the show in 2020. I might be more insistent about a few things. I got Kaiser, if I'm not mistaken, I think I got Kaiser on the phone. Are you there?
Oh, yeah, I'm here, BZ.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Quite well. Thank you. Courtesy of my wife having set up the phone in fashion that I just have to love her to death. That was an early Christmas present to me because I had to get away from X-Lite. In any event, when folks call, just to let you know on this, because I don't have call waiting, if you call while another caller is on, I'm going to hear the phone ring. And it'll go bing, 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 and then I'm going to have to hang up because that becomes obnoxious. So until I get call waiting, and that's next, I swear to God, that's next. Kaiser, what do you think? What do you have to say? Because I'm going to ask you a question about Afghanistan in just a bit after I read, maybe an article or two about that. How you doing tonight, sir?
Oh, I'm doing outstanding, brother. I just wanted to call back real quick on something that you guys brought up with Virginia.
Okay.
I made kind of a joke in the chat room about it, but it is true. You know, emergency management, that's kind of my bailiwick, right?
Right.
So, remember I've talked about this, I believe, on your show, and I know we did on, me, you, and Alan were talking on the one show we did on my podcast, how, you know, all the highways are basically a way to control traffic. And I always look at highways, okay? And what you see with Virginia going off the rails, to the east of D.C., you have Delaware, New Jersey, to the north, New York, and Philadelphia, right? Going down 95.
Okay.
Right? It goes right through Maryland in the north. Virginia controls the south. To the west, you have West Virginia, but that's a ways away. Same with Pennsylvania. Now, all those, look at Washington, D.C., and all those highway arteries. What is the easiest way to cut off D.C.? And remember what I said about a coup a long time ago. You need money, the military, and if you notice, the governor in Virginia said he'll use the National Guard to take people's guns. So this is just something to be mindful of. I'm not getting conspiratorial on it, but that's something I always point out to is look at the greater picture. And, you know, with the silliness going on that we have going on in D.C. right now, I don't think anything off the charts. So that's just my 2 cents on that. That's a little call back to what you guys are discussing.
Okay.
Yeah, so what do you want to talk about with Afghanistan, seeing I've just left there like a year ago?
Okay. Folks, do you remember, I think it was the Washington Post, said U.S. officials misled the public on the Afghan war. They said we were devoid of a fundamental understanding of Afghanistan. We didn't know what we were doing, a senior American official is quoted as saying. And then if you also remember, a number of alleged military experts, unfortunately including General Mattis, decided that they couldn't stay at the White House any longer because it was Trump's policy, and it was his stated policy from the very beginning. If we're not winning someplace, I'm going to pull my troops out. And there was a military kerfuffle. All sorts of military people came out of the woodwork and said, you evil orange-haired bastard. You can't do anything like that. So then, let's see, when did that story come out? December 9th, this month. The Washington Post came out, and there were a ton of documents that showing that U.S. officials basically systematically misled the American public about the war in Afghanistan during three presidential administrations. And that's what the Washington Post reported. They said that a senior U.S. official hid evidence and distorted statistics to make it look like the U.S. was kicking butt and taking names in Afghanistan, and claims that they showed there was basically no consensus on the war's objectives or how it was ever going to end. So the first thing after hearing that I think of is Russia. So I can't say it's a policy, but my thought is twofold. Number one, my first thought is, okay, you got me. I'm convinced. Get the hell out of Afghanistan. The second one, just as the people who insist we keep our borders open and that we allow hot and cold running immigrants to run freely into the United States from, anywhere. My first thought about that is, okay, who in D.C. is getting paid off by the cartels to make sure that that's our policy and that we be as obstructionist as possible in various states, including California, always spell it with a K. Then I have to apply that potential policy and that thought into Afghanistan. Who are the people that are underlying the support of Afghanistan? How is the American government involved? And does it involve the opium poppy? How many people are getting paid off in D.C. because of, again, drug money? Kaiser, any thoughts?
Yeah, on your first point, Afghanistan's a unique situation. And, I can call back all the way to when we were arming the Mujahideen. And everybody forgets the day before 9/11, Amir Massoud was assassinated up in Panjshir. The lion of the Panjshir was killed. You've seen it on my page. I've got a picture of it too. There's some realities that people don't understand. That on the ground, in the beginning, it was fine, but just like guests are just like fish. After a certain amount of time, they start to stink. And I've said this before on your show. You have about 6 months in a failed nation state. You can walk around without a gun because everybody's out retributionally killing each other. Little clan wars and shit like that, tribal wars. So you're pretty much safe, if you're not from there. So then all of a sudden the killing started, and and now honestly, if I only told you how much we've armed them up, you'd be shocked. I'm not going to get into it on an open line right now, but we're letting them really take the fight over. Okay.
So what you're saying is that we've armed the crap out of them.
Oh yeah. We've given them good kit. It's I was with a certain unit, 777. Afghan commandos over there, and also with their Force Special Missions wing. And that was, Force Special Missions was strictly, I'm trying to think of, there's a plane, it was called the, I'm mind dumping it now. I've got a picture of it, damn it. I can't think of the number on it. 10.
The A-10?
It's a cargo carrier and you can drop stuff out of it if you need to. It's a versatile little aircraft, but it's for small groups. And you can carry people in it, but it's a single prop plane. It'll come to me. Anyways, I'm getting mind dumped into that. And then we had Mi-17, Russian helicopters with bulletproof shit.
Okay.
All in them, okay? that was what that unit particularly was using. But there was other units that had Black Hawks, that had Little Birds, and all Afghan markings, and they were getting trained to fly them. And they also had some little fighter bomber things, mostly prop. I imagine they've graduated to jets now. Like I said, I haven't been there for a year, so just knowing the operational tempo. But it's the rules of engagement that have cost so many lives. And that particularly started under Obama in earnest, where every gun had a dash cam. And they'd go over to the, we had these balloons out there, PGIS, Pervasive Ground Surveillance System. And anyways, the PGIS operators had a direct link to D.C. And so anytime a shooting happened, they'd upload the daggone camera from whatever the gun was that shot, this is including ODA, and it would be judged good or not by lawyers back in D.C. That's why you had so many people under Obama getting hit with war crimes for doing their job. Thank God Trump pardoned them. With the Trump administration, I saw a little loosening of that garbage. But the military is like a train. It takes a while for it to completely change course or slow down. You understand what I mean? Or to even reverse something.
Yeah, and if you didn't see it, folks, there's an HBO documentary, I can't think of the title of it, about a lieutenant who went into Afghanistan and essentially said, because they'd been hit consistently by mujahideen dudes on bikes, on motorcycles, and in Europe that's very popular with terrorists, and in the Middle East that's very popular, and they themselves had been hit by people of a like nature. He gave a green light to do that, and he found himself in Leavenworth. By the way, Jack Alexander in chat says the AT-6 is the turboprop fighter. Is that the one you're thinking about?
No, that's the fighter bomber. Because you can strap a couple bombs to it.
Okay.
No, it's a something 10.
Okay.
It'll come to me. PC-10. PC-10. I can't think of the name they call it. Anyways, it starts with a P, I believe. Anyways, I'm not getting into the minutia of it. PC-10s were what they were.
But what's your overall take on Afghanistan? Overall on Afghanistan, Kaiser, what do you think? Stay in, go out?
Oh, no, I've been an advocate to get out for a long time, many years. I mean, I don't mind contractors being there. I also don't mind ODA being there or any other SF unit. But that's where even the Russians had more success with the Spetsnaz going in and doing small group unit tactics. And we do too. And that's why we've really started training the Afghan commandos to go in there and hit them. And they are taking over the war. But in my opinion, regular troops need to get the hell out of there. Because, look, a contractor dies, nobody gives a fuck. You bought the ticket, took the ride. If an SF dude dies, sometimes nobody but the family knows. Every soldier or airman or sailor marine, that causes, and it should cause the nation to think about whatever they're doing. But if you're going to fight a war like we're fighting there, which is a counterinsurgency, that's what it's become again, because they had 8 years under Obama to arm up again and just outweighed us, which they were going to do. We're spending too much blood and too much treasure there. So, yes, I agree with everybody to get the fuck out. Point two, okay.
There's this guy named Douglas Lute, who's a three-star Army general. He served as, what was he? I guess you could call him like a war czar for Afghanistan under Bush and Obama. And there was I found a 2015 interview where he said, "We were devoid of a fundamental understanding of Afghanistan. We didn't know what we were doing." I mean, I can't find any more salient quote than that. So Washington Post gets just about 2,000 pages of documents, including what they say are notes of about 400 interviews with all sorts of military commanders and diplomats and aid workers and whatever would be the equivalent of some kind of an Afghan official. And after a 3-year legal battle under FOIA to find this information out. So then I have to ask myself, and I don't know if you know the answer, but I'm going to ask you it anyway, Kaiser. Okay, if there was that much coverage or cover up of the fact that we were screwing the pooch and have been in Afghanistan, if this is such a secret, okay, why then, what's the motivation for the military and the United States and Bush and Obama to say, well, we do need to stay in Afghanistan? What's their motivation?
Well, it's twofold. The motivation I'll get to here in a second. First, it's institutional memory. You have ODA units now cycling in that didn't, a lot of the people from the beginning of this war are retired now. So you lose a lot of institutional memory with even within an SF unit, because they've cycled out. So like when the war first started in 01, a lot of those dudes are out of the military now. You know, you're top tier operators. And so you're getting new guys in constantly. That's a problem. Institutional memory is a major problem within the military period, just the way it's set up on the 20 year in, year out. I mean, people stay longer sometimes, but whatever, it is what it is. My other thought on it is they have a shitload of lithium in the ground and other precious metals.
Okay. All right. Wait a minute. Kaiser, you're saying that deserves... Okay. Now it's starting to make sense, because lithium is a critical component of what, boys and girls? Answer all at once, especially if you're a leftist. Oh, that's right. All the battery packs that are mandated by leftist states, like California, spell it with a K, to increase the amount of electric cars, though in California, when we pull the power because of wildfires, PG&E lighting our ass up, we need more lithium to make more electric cars. That's a really smart thing to do. Now I get it, Kaiser.
Well, it's two-pronged, too. Also, the opium. That does play a role, because it is our allies' basic cash crop, their number one cash crop, no matter what. I mean, there are DEA agents in Afghanistan still. Why are they there? And I can't really get into a lot of this stuff, but there's a reason they're there. There's a reason why I know that certain military units have guarded certain fields. But that's not something I want to get into right now. The other major factor is the turnover of presidents. You have no consistent policies. And that's a good thing and a bad thing for the U.S., okay? We don't have a consistent long-term policy. At least the Russians had a consistent long-term policy, but our CIA undermined them in there. So that's a truthful fact. And these are policy decisions. These are way above my pay grade, but I've been cycled in and out of there enough that I can tell you I've seen it firsthand how it affects the war on the ground. And, so for somebody to do one or two pumps in there and think they know what they're talking about, and they hit it at this time and at this time, even a 5-year interval, that's a long time, because the situation, the tactics, everything changes. And even with as many times as I've cycled in, it's now 5 times I've cycled in and out of that damn place. And it always changes. And even the people change. Their techniques and tactics. And their equipment. I mean, now you got their commandos run around with M60s. And they also have our saws. And our M16s, our ARs. So the platforms are changing with them. There's just a lot to it, man, that it's kind of hard to describe, but there's a reality on the ground that unless you've been there and seen it, and you see how the policies work. I mean, I remember going through Afghanistan, was it 2010? I was working for Democracy International and USAID. And I think it was McChrystal. He put out that everybody in Afghanistan, they were closing down all the coffee shops and everything, the green beans and all this stuff. And the PXs, they were lowering the stuff on that because Obama wanted to pull everything out. And when you talk about NGOs, you have to understand that USAID is an NGO, but it's just a friendly face to the CIA.
Okay,
and
okay.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And USAID, that's exactly what it is. It's an NGO, but it is a subcomponent of the CIA.
Folks, in case you don't know, for folks that are not in like Flint, NGO is a non-government organization.
Right. Right.
While we were talking,
and
Kaiser
funded
Schuff.
by black money.
While we were talking, as you were talking, I was going to my favorite search engine. Here's what I found. Thank you for pointing this out. Here's an article from, wait for it. Oh, God, wish I had a producer. If I had a producer, you'd hear something like, where are we? Here's an article from mining.com. The headline is $1 trillion motherlode of lithium and gold discovered in Afghanistan. A recently unearthed 2007 United States Geological Service survey appears to have discovered nearly $1 trillion in mineral. Okay, I got to put my little finger in my mouth when I say this. $1 trillion in mineral deposits if in Afghanistan, far beyond any previously known reserves and enough to fundamentally alter the Afghan economy and perhaps the Afghan war itself. Imagine that.
Well, not just that. The Russians, when they invaded, they wanted a pipeline to go through Afghanistan to get their oil quicker out to. It's got to go through Afghanistan, then through. Trying to think the direction. I think Iran. I could be wrong, or I'm trying to think because I'm looking at a map in my mind, not on my screen. I probably should have pulled one up so I sound more educated. I believe it was Iran.
Okay.
So that they could put it in through Iran to get it out to sell, because Afghanistan's totally landlocked. Okay, but that's why they invaded initially. To own a city in Afghanistan is to own nothing. Okay, Kabul, Kandahar. I'm trying to think of some of the other towns. The big towns. I'm mind dumping right now because I'm tired.
That's okay.
Anyways, to own the big towns is absolutely to have nothing. And no matter what people think, oh wow, Kabul's this, that, and, well, okay, yeah, you can go party in Kabul, but out there in the countryside, you got a whole different world. And the other thing is also just the war material that the Mujahideen destroyed when the Russians were there. I worked for a company called Midfield. It was an Afghan company. And I drew up the project for them, and then I left. I was like, screw it, because I saw it was going nowhere. Where we would take the scrap metal, hire Afghans for a couple dollars a day, literally, to cut these old tanks and APCs apart, because some of their component parts have metals in there. And then the finger of Panjshir goes right into China. So you could move it seamlessly right out of Afghanistan and into China, and they would scrap it. And Midfield was like, oh, yeah, they wanted to do it, but there were two tossers that owned the company, and I finally left. So that's all I'm saying. I mean, this is a real deal thing, and this is the kind of way the skin trade works. And that's all I'm trying to point out, man, is everything that you think you see, there's always something nebulous behind it.
Okay.
And when you think there's conspiracies, sometimes there are.
It's time for the bottom of the hour break. I am going to go ahead to the break, and I'm going to ask a question when I come back. Kaiser, thank you very much. I appreciate it. The question is this, and I'm sure Kaiser is probably still listening. Two parts to this. When the Afghanistan papers came out, it seems to me that one of the most significant revelations of that is how tough it was to find out that we were losing the battle in Afghanistan. Then, because of what I was hearing from Kaiser, the other question is, okay, oil is not a motivational factor. A rare earth metal very well could be. Lithium is required for tons of stuff all across the world, to include batteries and, as Jack pointed out in chat, drugs for whack cadets. So the big question is, all right, an if-then equation. If we or others are in Afghanistan or want to be in Afghanistan for the lithium or any other rare earth materials and metals that may be discovered within, how do you negotiate with essentially a government that doesn't exist? And then to whom will you negotiate? Will you negotiate with the warlords? How low do you go?
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Shannon Wright of The Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Mike's not here, so I gotta talk fast. You gotta join us. Fall season. Getting ready to start up with a whole bunch of new stuff. News and food and politics and sports and entertainment and a whole bunch of stuff. But wait, Mike's coming. I gotta go. Remember, Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian Sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty voided Montenegro.
Of course.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here from the sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent, not necessarily in that order, SHR Media Studios, where I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. Always spell it with a damn K, mister. Still got some great audio cuts coming up. I've got so much stuff to play. This is going to be the last broadcast before Christmas. I could broadcast after Christmas. Christmas and New Year's today, this year, are Wednesday. So no sackheads for the next 2 weeks. And no one wants to listen to a radio show, you know, on like New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve. So my Tuesday shows they're gone. And I don't think anybody's really going to want to be moved to listen to my show on Thursdays, because that's like after Christmas Day, and people are going to be out on their skateboards and their brand new cars and motorcycles and whatnot. So I don't think I'm going to be broadcasting next Thursday, because people are going to be having fun. They're going to be on their Christmas vacations, doing all sorts of stuff like that. So I don't think I'm going to be broadcasting Thursday after Christmas. I may be broadcasting the next Thursday, the day after New Year's. So from now, this is probably the last broadcast, unless I do it next Thursday, for 2019. Just to let everybody know, programming note, if I am going to be on, I will let everyone know. Going back to Afghanistan, the Washington Post published that article that basically indicated the U.S. government forces, the U.S. government officials have been lying to the public about the war in Afghanistan. And it was very interesting. There were a bunch of frank comments from U.S. military officials in that. There was an issue with, hey, okay, what does victory look like? How long are we going to hang around in here? The public was, all this information was withdrawn and pulled from them. So why, though, would it take, some people are saying that the most significant revelation about all of this is the fact that it took 3 years and a massive blitz of FOIA requests to even unearth this information. Just spoke to Kaiser the last half hour, and he pointed out, and somebody else pointed out in chat, hey, rare earth metals, dude, lithium. And we also know about the poppies in there. So all I want to know, and we're talking about in the break, in Afghanistan, if we're there for the poppies or we're there for the lithium, to whom do you negotiate for all of that? Because the Afghani government is essentially crap. As Kaiser pointed out, well, who do you negotiate with? You negotiate with, I don't know, all the warlords, because there's a bunch of those guys. Do you negotiate with, Karzai? I don't even know if he's in power anymore. Do you negotiate with all the little chiefs of police? All the tribes, all the assload of military units, the Ministry of the Interior, as Kaiser writes. So, yeah, okay. Good luck with that. Excellent luck with that. I haven't listened to this whole thing, but I know that it was happening. This was an interview, and I have not played this, so I'm going to play a good portion of this. This is an interview conducted by Martha McCallum. It occurred tonight on Fox. She speaks to William Barr, and he gave some incredibly insightful, he provided some revelations about potentially what's to come. And I want to play some of this right now because I couldn't isolate just the specific cuts, but the whole thing was so good that, and this is fresh. This is fresh off the boat. So I want to play this for everybody and make some points that I heard about William Barr, because it would appear to me there's some bad shit coming. But it ain't necessarily going to be for conservatives. It might be for a lot of other people.
Attorney General Bill Barr recently made big headlines for saying that some members of the FBI may have been more than just sloppy, as James Comey said. Barr said it may have been more than that. He said he wanted to know if they had acted in, quote, bad faith when they launched an investigation into the Trump campaign. That and other bold moves have earned him a barrage of criticism from the left. But he doesn't seem to mind. I traveled with the Attorney General as he went to Detroit to launch a major new crime-fighting effort in America's cities. And I asked him about those attacks and about the president who was just hours away at the time from impeachment. Here's part one of our conversation. Attorney General Barr, thank you for sitting down with me today.
Thank you for having me.
So by the time this airs this evening, it's expected that the president will be impeached by the House of Representatives of the United States. What do you think about that?
Well, as I've said, it's a constitutional political process that's underway right now, and the Department of Justice isn't part of that. And so it's premature for me to comment on impeachment at this point. When
you listen to the call, do you think that it was perfect, as the president says?
Well, I'm not going to get into, if issues come up later and I have to deal with them, I don't want to, be discussing the facts.
With regard to Ukraine, which obviously is at the center of this, the impeachment push, Rudy Giuliani just got back from Ukraine again. He's still investigating on behalf of the president there, who may have been trying to get at him in 2016. Do you think that's a good idea, that Rudy Giuliani is investigating that in Ukraine?
Well, I'm responsible for the Department of Justice, and obviously I will rely on investigations conducted by the department, and I think that's generally the best way to go.
Do you think he's stepping on your turf?
I wouldn't say that, but as I say, I think it's in everyone's interest to allow the Department of Justice to do its work and the other U.S. intelligence agencies.
He said in an interview that he needed to get Marie Yovanovitch out of the way, that she was going to make investigations difficult for everybody. And he firmly believes that there was a Ukraine conspiracy with the DNC against President Trump. Do you have any indication that there was one?
Well, as I've said, I have not looked at all into the, whatever the Ukrainian aspects are of the 2016 election, I have not gotten into them at all. And I don't know whether John Durham has gotten into them. So,
hint, that's called a clue.
Because that is a matter that is potentially going to be covered by the investigation, I don't want to speculate.
Are you interested in seeing the evidence that Rudy Giuliani has been gathering in Ukraine?
The Department of Justice is interested in seeing all evidence that could be relevant.
Does the DOJ have any plan to investigate Joe Biden or CrowdStrike or Ukraine and the DNC server or Burisma? Are any of those on your radar?
Again, I don't want to speculate about what Durham may or may not get into. I don't know what he is.
But currently, none of those issues are under investigation.
I couldn't say one way or the other, but you shouldn't read anything into that.
Jim Comey came out after you gave your last interview. Oh. You responded to the IG Horowitz's report and spoke out about that. Comey. And then he spoke with Chris Wallace, and he said that the 17 mistakes and omissions that were uncovered in the FISA process he attributed it to sloppiness, largely. Right. What do you say to that?
I think there's some of them very hard to square with the idea that these were just mistakes and sloppiness. I have said that a number of these episodes leave open the possibility of inferring bad faith or improper motive, but I hasten to add that, as I've said all along, that I've reached no determination on that, nor do I think a final determination on that is appropriate until all the evidence is in. The Horowitz himself, in his testimony.
The underlying subtext to that, by the way, is don't forget it's under investigation, and by dint of that means Jimmy the Leak, you too.
I think pretty well summed it up, which is this could be, on the one hand, at the very least, gross incompetence. On the other hand, it could also be improper motive. And he was not in a position to make that call, and that's why we have the U.S. Attorney John Durham looking into this.
And I want to ask you more about that in a moment. Are you surprised that James Comey is so convinced himself that all of this was completely above board? He came out and said there was no treason, there's no spying at all on the president.
Well, I think the IG report and the recent letter from the FISA court, I think, pulls the rug out from under that analysis. There was serious misconduct, as the court itself has said. And one of the things that I object to is the tack being taken by Comey, which is to suggest that people who are criticizing or trying to get to the bottom of the misconduct are somehow attacking the FBI. I think that's nonsense. We're criticizing and
Wait, wasn't it the leftists and the Democrats that were saying no one's above the law? Well, wouldn't that include Jimmy the Leak as well? And the answer is Barr is saying clearly. The answer is yes, no one is above the law. Very interesting.
About misconduct by a few actors at the top of the FBI, and they should be criticized if they engaged in serious misconduct. That doesn't mean we're criticizing the FBI, and I think the tack of trying to wrap yourself in the institution and say, gee, people who are criticizing the decisions I made are attacking the institution. I notice people don't do that as far as I'm concerned. People feel free to criticize me, and I don't say, gee, you're attacking the honest men and women of the Department of Justice. I think leaders, have to own their decisions and are fair game if they make bad decisions.
Hello, in the world of politics, that's a shot across the bow of Jimmy the Leak.
I want you to listen to this piece of his interview with Chris Wallace and get your reaction.
He does not have a factual basis as the Attorney General of the United States to be speculating that agents acted in bad faith. The facts just aren't there. Full stop. That doesn't make it any less consequential, any less important, but that's an irresponsible statement.
He said that you made an irresponsible statement about these FBI individuals.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I made the same statement effectively and substantively as the Inspector General, which is there are unexplained misconduct it just can't be easily explained as to what was going on there. And as he said, it could involve bad motive, and he was not in a position, given the limited scope he has, of making that final determination. So it's not speculation, but I think there are episodes there that simply cannot be squared with innocent mistakes, and I think people have to come to terms with
Were you surprised that he seemed to give himself such distance from the entire operation?
As a director sitting on top of an organization of 38,000 people, you can't run an investigation that's 7 layers below you. You have to leave it to the career professionals to do.
Do you believe that?
No.
Okay, stop. This is great. This is Barr. This is a massive backhand by William Barr to James Comey. Listen to what Comey said. He's essentially saying, I'm not responsible. I didn't know what was going on with Strzok, Page, the investigation, and the FISA application. Bull fucking shit.
Of making that final determination. So it's not speculation, but I think there are episodes there that simply cannot be squared with innocent mistakes, and I think people have to come to terms with
Were you surprised that he seemed to give himself such distance from the entire operation?
As a director sitting on top of an organization of 38,000 people, you can't run an investigation that's 7 layers below you. You have to leave it to the career professionals to do.
Do you believe that?
No.
No.
I think that one of the problems with what happened was precisely that they pulled the investigation up to the executive floors, and it was run and bird-dogged by a very small group of very high-level officials.
Stop. This is the point that I'm trying to make, just as I made with Barack Hussein Obama. Do you think Obama was not in the loop when this was occurring through his administration, that he was setting up a minefield for President Trump at the very last second because everyone was pretty much predominantly assuming that it was going to be Hillary Clinton? So then that comes back to the Strzok and Page texts on FBI equipment, phones, indicating, well, we have an insurance policy, meaning just in case Hillary Clinton loses, despite the fact we're cheating like fuck to get Hillary Clinton in there, we've got an insurance policy back in place. Anyone who's more mature than a 4-year-old knows that Barack Hussein Obama knew exactly what the hell was happening all around him. And you cannot convince me, having worked for the FBI myself, that James Comey, well, I'm James Comey, 6'8" of bullshit, that I had no interest in keeping my finger in knowing what was likely the most critical political investigation of his entire career, absent the crap that occurred with Hillary Clinton. That's why I don't believe James Comey. James Comey's asshole his sphincter should be watertight right about now. Because essentially what William Barr is saying is, Jimmy the Leak, I don't believe your bullshit. Number 2, I've sent a nice pit bull after you and slamming the gate after yourself and then saying that you're inviolate, I have King's X. That isn't going to play. And Billy Barr, I think he's coming after you, Jimmy. Yeah. That's not going to work. That's not going to work at all.
Director sitting on top of an organization of 38,000 people. You can't run an investigation that's 7 layers below you. You have to leave it to the career professionals to do.
Do you believe that?
No. I think that one of the problems with what happened was precisely that they pulled the investigation up to the executive floors, and it was run and bird-dogged by a very small group of very high-level officials. And the idea that this was 7 layers below him is simply not true.
He also said that he told the president 3 times that he was not the target of the investigation.
It ain't Taco
Do you
Bell.
believe, based on what we know now, that the president was not the target of Crossfire Hurricane or wasn't one of them?
Well, I think effectively the president was being investigated. They were investigating the Trump campaign and Trump associates. But again, as I've said, what happened after the election to me is very questionable. And I think there has to be a lot of focus as to what happened after the campaign. And they learned that their whole case had collapsed and they really had no basis to take it further.
Okay, stop. Stop right there. That's enough. I'm not going to play the rest of it because I'm running out of time. I again emphasize that Bill Barr's coming for you. Durham's coming for you. I think Bill Barr plays all of his stuff very, very close to the vest. I get it. I understand that part. But the cool thing also is while this stuff is going on, across the pond, other things are happening as well. Similar things. Here's Katie Hopkins.
I'm reminded, of course, of Brexit here in the UK, where British people voted for something 3.5 years ago, and our politicians and our establishment and the elite decided that we got the wrong answer too. So they did everything they could to try and stop us.
Imagine
they
that.
Virtually had an Acme cartoon about it because they threw grand pianos out the window. They exploded telephone boxes. They sent Gina Miller. They tried to change the law. Anything they could, they threw in our path to try and stop what we voted for. And of course, the same thing is happening right now, today, in America. This whole impeachment farce isn't real. Nobody's actually done anything wrong. There is nothing written nor proven that the president has done. This is just a way of the establishment of the Democrats having a little hissy-pissy fit because Americans were seen as getting the wrong answer when they voted for Donald. They've thrown Russia at it. They've tried to talk about his past sexual infidelities. They will throw anything they can at this thing. But ultimately, you know what? The parallel with Britain is still true. We went back to the polling booths on the 12th of December. We have got Boris back, and we are going to make Brexit happen because the voice of the people shouts louder than the nonsense of the other side. And this will be true in America too.
So basically, Katie Hopkins is saying that look out 2020, because leftist Democrats and the American media maggots, it's essentially a self-fulfilling prophecy that bad stuff is going to happen. Imagine that. Because, let's see, do I have another one in here? Oh, yeah. Try to make, this is going to be the last audio cut of the show. Try to make sense out of this. Now, you remember that Nancy Pelosi said, well, we worked really, really hard on this impeachment, and now I'm not giving it to the Senate. Because you didn't know, but not only am I, Nancy Pelosi, in charge of the House, I'm now in charge of the Senate, too. And I'm going to set the Senate rules. And I'm not going to ship you this beautiful package that we've worked so long and hard for over to you unless I get everything perfect. Because there is no separation of powers. I, Nancy Pelosi, run it all. This is 45 seconds of her explaining that. Now, I want you, after you listen to this, to try to figure out, honest to God, what the hell did she just say?
When we bring the bill, which is, just so you know, there's a bill made in order by the Rules Committee that we can call up at any time in order to send it over to the Senate and to have the provisions in there to pay for the impeachment. And then the next step, the whatever you want to call it, the trial. That is where you put the managers. I was not prepared to put the managers in that bill yet because we don't know the arena that we are in. Frankly, I don't care what the Republicans say. Any other questions? Not on this subject. I've said this is it. I honored Nancy. Yeah.
Okay. That's how that gibberish she said, that's how that was interpreted. We're not handing it over to the sentence. But what was that? What did she say?
Monsieur has been
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show right here on the SHR Media Network, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. Spell it with a K. You want to contact me? You can find me on Twitter at BZEP, at BZEP, on my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. Promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and also by Pratt & Whitney Engines. Thrust. You can trust. Tiaras are by My Little Pony. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team with whom I will be consorting in less than an hour. And thanks to everybody else for being so kind to listen live. Thanks to Earl Jackson for being here for the first hour. Thanks to everybody in chat. Thanks to everybody who listens to the podcast. Merry Christmas to everybody. Have a great Christmas. I might see you the day after Christmas. Don't know yet. God bless. Take care. Be safe. Have a great and wonderful weekend. Have a great and wonderful Christmas.
quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob. Go to sleep.
Good night, and good luck.